I recently got back from Queensland and I shot this photo with a phone, with one photo, with some torches. How bloody cool is that? Hang around, I'll show you how to do it. G'day guys, Shane Mostyn here. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I do 2 videos each and every week all about small sensor photography, that is mobile phones, smartphones, drones, action cameras, all that sort of stuff. 2 videos each and every week. So if you're interested in learning about that, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you see when I do release something. Also, if you're new here, everything I talk about today is in the description down below. So let's get into it. So what are we doing today? Well, we're talking about this car. We're talking about this photo, how I took it with this phone. It doesn't have to be that phone. It can be any phone that shoots at least 30 seconds. I'll explain why when we get to it. I think generally when you take photos, you should try and tell a story about what it is that you're taking that photo of. So quite often I will, even on social media, I'll put a photo and then in the text I'll add a little bit of a story about that subject or how I took it or why I took it. But with the cars, the story is kind of a personal one to me. My brother-in-law is who makes these cars. Well, he doesn't make them, he restores them. He finds these cars in paddocks, on farms, with trees coming out of the boot. These things are generally pieces of crap when he finds them. And he puts a lot of heart and soul into this, but what he didn't do is let me put him in this video. I really wanted to show you, introduce to you guys who he is, and he's a bit camera shy. So here's a photo of him at my wedding. There he is there. You're on the video. So he puts a lot of work into these things. He's incredibly talented. Picks these Chevys up from all over the country, brings them back to his workshop, strips them down, uses the parts that he strips out of these things for other projects, and he builds some magnificent vehicles. This one here is actually one of our, well, the car that we used at our wedding. He was kind enough to let us, well, he drove us around the Gold Coast when we got married, and it's a bloody awesome car. I've never really been into old automobiles, but that Chevy, that's pretty special to us. So he does this sort of stuff, and he's got a few cars there. I'll say a few, just loosely, and I look at these things and I go, I really like that. I like that Bel Air because it's personal to me. That was our car at our wedding. But I really like this Ute. And this Ute, it restored from virtually nothing, and it looks pretty amazing. And that's what we're going to take a photo of tonight. But let me just show you what he does with these cars. It's bloody unreal. Seriously, how good is that? It's bloody amazing what this guy does with these vehicles. So I just called that a Ute. You might call it a truck or a pickup maybe. Maybe it's not as big as a truck. You American people, what is that thing called? What would you call that? I'd call it a Ute, but you might say differently. Anyway, let's have a look at how we actually take this photo. So when it comes to the tools, obviously we're going to need something to hold the camera still. What we're doing tonight, we're going to shoot for about 30 seconds. So we're going to use a lot of torch light, and we need to keep the camera nice and still. So I'm going to use this tripod here. This is a 3-legged thing tripod. You don't need to use this. This is a Joby tripod. I'll link it down the bottom there, and you can use that as well. It does just as good a job as this. I just don't need to get on the ground and crawl around behind the phone to take the photo with that. And it's tough. You're going to need a phone, and we'll use the iPhone 12 Pro Max. The other two things we're going to need is a phone holder. The phone holder, this is linked down the bottom as well. The phone goes into this goes onto the tripod, keeps it nice and still for the duration of the photo. And the last thing that we're going to need is the torch. And we'll use this torch here to light up the vehicle as we take the photo. So the most important thing with this sort of torch, and I'll link this one down the bottom as well, is that with this sort of photography, it's easier to adjust the amount of light coming from the torch than it is to adjust the phone when we take the photo. So with this torch here, it's a dimmable torch. So we use this torch, take some photos and go, that's not quite bright enough. We'll increase the brightness of the torch, take the photo again, and the results will be what we're after. So all we need to do now is wait for it to get a little bit darker, and we'll take some photos. All right, it's dark obviously now, and we've done a couple of test shots. We've tried from over this side of the vehicle, and that looks pretty good. It would look like this here. But you can see the stars up in the background, and with a 30-second photo, that's pretty good. So what we're doing here is going to the night mode on the iPhone 12 Pro and going to maximum that we can, 30 seconds. We'll touch on the screen, lock onto the vehicle, so that locks the focus and it locks the exposure, and we're going to add light to that photo. If we took the photo without any light at all we would see is a pretty dark colored car and the stars in the background at night, which is cool. So we add details to the photo with the torch that I mentioned before. So we took photos from this side first, and the stars are in the background. That looks pretty cool. But then we noticed over in the northeast, there's a bit of cloud coming from the major town that's, it's a few Ks over that way, and you can see how much light pollution gets reflected off the lights in this photo when we show you in a second. So I've tested from over this side, it looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is, well, we've already put the Lytra torch, and the Lytra torches, I've done reviews on that before. I'll link it up the top here, and you can go and see what they're all about. But basically, they're these little inch by inch cubes and put out a bucket load of light. At the moment, I've put one underneath the vehicle, and that's going to highlight the vehicle from underneath, and it'll give it a lot more dimension. When we shine the torch onto the vehicle, we're going to do it twice. We're going to do it from one side, and then we'll do it from the front of the vehicle as well. The camera is set up over here on the iPhone, on the tripod. We don't want to shine the torch directly from behind the iPhone. It's just going to look like, well, a flash, and flashes are boring. If we go from the sides, and that'll give, because we've got so much gnarly detail on the front end of this vehicle, it'll show a lot more shadow and a lot more depth. So that's what we want to try and achieve here. So I'll set up the phone to take the 30-second photo, and you'll see what we're doing. So it's set there. I'll lock the focus on the vehicle and we'll take the photo. So I'll duck around this side here first and shine the light from the back down here. That's enough there. Basically, I'm just lighting the side of the vehicle. I'll walk around the phone now, sitting over there, and I'll light from this angle. And just a little bit at the front there, and that's it. We don't do any more. In about another 5 seconds or so, that'll be finished. And that's it. How good's that look? Let's zoom in on this. That looks pretty bloody good. And right there is a possum. There's a possum. Hold on, I'll see if I can photograph it for you. All the bloody thing left, so we don't get to see the possum, but there was a possum. Trust me, there was a possum. It's got up in that tree now, I think. But anyway, let's have a look at this photo, and we'll throw it into probably Lightroom, I think is the best app for this one. We might even do both, but we'll definitely do Lightroom, and we'll edit up this photo, and it's going to look pretty cool. Let's get into that. Oh, yeah, that's kind of cool, huh? All right, let's put this into Lightroom on the phone, and we'll do a bit of an edit. So we'll open this in Lightroom, we'll go into the lighting, we'll just hit the auto first and see what it does. It's way too bright. We'll bring that exposure down. We'll drop the highlights a bit too. We're going to change the highlights in just a second. We'll go down to the blacks. I'm not really fond of what's happening with the trees in the background there. So we'll bring that up just a little bit. Yeah, I like that. If we go to colour, we go to grading, and it'll give us these options for the 3 different areas of colour, the highlights, the shadows, and the mids. I'm going to change the highlights to give it that magenta sort of a look, and I quite like how that how that's coming together there. It changes the dynamic of the photo. Yeah, I like that. We'll go to the shadows, or the mid-tones. We'll change it to a little bit of magenta as well. Only slightly, not too much. I don't mind how that looks there. Go back into the colour and we'll change the temperature of this, and no, probably not, the tint and the temperature. A little bit bluer, a little bit more magenta. Actually, I don't mind that like that. Bring the saturation up a little bit, have a look close. It's not too bad, I quite like that. We'll go to the effects and we'll increase the clarity, and we'll dehaze the photo a bit too. I think that helps make this pop. We'll add a bit of a vignette and might sharpen up a little bit, just a little. I like that. I think that's a really good edit. I really like how that all pops. If you want to have a look at this, photo, just head over to phonephotoschool.com.au, and on the tutorial link on that page, I'll leave the original photo and the edited photo, and you can have a look at it for yourself. And that's it for today, guys. I'll see you next week. Catch you later.